possible future regrets. And the only way I've found to inoculate myself, to prevent the possibility of ending up in that lower right-hand corner of the grid, knowing that I could have done more to prevent it but just didn't find the time or couldn't be bothered, is to invest a reasonable amount of effort now. Because strangely, it's the effort itself that prevents the future regrets, not the success of the effort. What I mean is, even if we do end up being hosed in the lower right-hand corner, I can feel okay about myself, knowing that I did everything that could reasonably be expected, and that history, or myself, or my daughters, won't judge me too harshly, because even though I may have failed, I made a conscientious effort. I don't know. I guess sometimes ignorance is bliss. Until the carbon hits the fan, that is, which it looks more and more is going to happen during my lifetime. And so I am obliged to do all I can to soften the blow, and hope that my assessment turns out to be completely wrong. And now, of course, I've removed the ignorance is bliss option for you by telling you all this. I probably should have warned you before, but it selfishly serves my purpose to infect as many people as possible so that they accomplish my objectives by working to prevent their own future regrets. You're welcome. The situation is quite likely urgent. We may be near a tipping point. In a complex system, the only way to identify a tipping point is from the other side. The only thing we know for certain is that the longer we wait, the more likely we are to pass one. If we continue operating according to our saber-toothed tiger reflex, where we need to see the danger big, violent, and immediate before we act, we may be doomed, because at that point in a complex system, when the danger is big, violent, and immediate, probably no action would be sufficient. As I mentioned, current climate research seems to indicate that at this point, it may already be too late to avoid significant changes in the climate. We can probably still affect how quickly it will happen and how bad it will be, but the longer we wait, the less likely that becomes. And right now, we are definitely choosing ticket B by default. If that gives you a panicky feeling like it does me, I can suggest moving your choice on the menu of personal action down a couple notches. It helps with the butterflies a bit to know you're doing all you can. Which reminds me of how that professor of mine summed up the importance of the issue. Do you remember it? Paper or plastic? Doesn't matter. Save the whales? Doesn't matter. Save Social Security? Healthcare reform? War on terror? Doesn't matter. Sometimes the Chicken Little turns out to be the Paul Revere. Isn't it worth your time to figure it out and then decide where this fits in all the other demands in your life, what level of effort you can spare? As I film this, it's been only 5 days since I started posting the videos in this project. Happily, I've already had a number of people contact me asking if I wanted to work with them on making a website or something around these videos. No. My wife needs her husband back. My daughters need their daddy back. My students need their teacher back, and I need to get some sleep finally. I can't take on a new project. But you can. That's exactly what I'm talking about. As the knowledge spreads, so does the realization and the motivation, like a virus or a meme, which really is what I'm talking about. So you have my explicit permission to take these videos and the ideas and phrases and images and words in them and use them as your own. So build that website around them. Even see if you can make some money off of it. If you don't need to contact me for permission or a contract, just do it. Contact me if you want higher resolution versions or if you want to spread some of your massive profits around. I have spent a ridiculous amount of money on energy drinks during the last few months. Don't tell my wife. But no need to contact me to collaborate. They're yours now. I give them to you. Mash them up, transcribe them, and make a hyperlink index. Read them at a poetry slam, expand on them. For goodness sake, condense them, tighten them up. Repost them on other video sharing services. Burn DVDs and sell them at your band's gigs. Pass them out on the street corner. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, claim the ideas are your own, record yourself making the arguments, get famous doing so, and make lots of money. I've got no ownership here. I just want the ideas to infect as many people as possible so that we get a shift in the culture that allows our policymakers to enact significant enough action that we can substantially reduce the likelihood of abrupt climate change. And for Pete's sake, the least you can do is come up with a better tagline than what just came out of my mouth. In fact, that's my fantasy, to see this project, these videos, spin completely out of my control. I don't want to spearhead anything. I'm just trying to kick some pebbles down the slope. You guys are the avalanche. I've worked really hard for this video project to be self-contained so that it can self-replicate as many times as it needs to without me, because what we need is a change in culture, and I can't do that. But a virus, a meme, can. So I've designed and released the virus. Now it's your job as its host to do whatever you can to spread it. I know in today's terrorism-dominated mentality, speaking of a virus generally isn't a positive thing, but ideas can be viral too. Let's use that power. How about you host this one, multiply it, and infect a bunch of others? If you spread the idea of risk management, the understanding of the threat of abrupt climate change and how it works, and the motivation to do something about it, That can be orders of magnitude more powerful than simply following the traditional 10 simple things you can do to be more green. Those are useful, and I don't want to downplay them, but I'm afraid in this case, they're not sufficient. I've been watching this for a while, and I've come to the conclusion that the biggest bang for your buck, the greatest payoff for your time and energy investment, and in fact the only thing that will actually get us into column A, is in spreading the concern. Many hands make light work and all that. A number of my friends have complained that this seems like a cop-out, asking other people to change before making big changes yourself. But I've been studying it for a while and I'm pretty convinced. Think of it this way. If you get 10 people on board, and they each get 10, and each of those gets 10, and each of those gets 10, and each of those gets 10, in just 5 steps, at each step, just one person infects just 10 other people with the idea and the motivation. But in just 5 steps, that's over 100,000 people who may have had their thinking shifted because of you at the top. That's how we shift the culture. That's how we get policies changed. That's how we make significant action happen. In both the natural world and the computer world, viruses are strong and successful in part because they are decentralized. Still, more gets done if everyone is pulling in the same direction. So I'll make a suggestion here that might be helpful. How about if you want to find other people or projects interested in working on this kind of thinking about climate change, on this kind of approach in bringing about substantial action by changing the culture, why don't you use the keyword Manpalo or Manpalo project, simply because it's unique. As of this taping, the only Google hits on the word are from my previous videos on global climate change. So it'll be a useful decentralized way to find other people of similar interests. You just talk about the Manpalo project online and you do your Googling and you find others. In fact, it'll be a really cool trick because it won't require any organization. So it's robust and zero maintenance. And yet there won't be any confusion because no one else is using the word because I just made it up. It's pretty cool. So you can easily find each other by using the keyword, and I can go back to my life for a bit without playing traffic control. Of course, I would like to hear what's going on out there. I've invested a huge amount of personal sacrifice in these videos, and a few warm fuzzies tossed my way would help make that worth it, since my ultimate goal of saving the world is a little hard to measure and doesn't really provide much concrete feedback on a job well done. So, I'm passing the torch. I'm deputizing you. I'm lighting your fire, whatever. Because as you may have inferred from the increasing size of the bags under my eyes, this freaking project has consumed me. And it's time I go back to being a husband and a father and a teacher. And not some sleepless zombie or corporate shill for the energy drink industry. If you think abrupt climate change may be a monster, you should try this stuff. Unless you drink this stuff, abrupt climate change is going to open up a can of it on you. Sobe. No, you grab life by the tail and hope it doesn't come off in your hand while life scurries underneath a rock. NOS, for when you can't afford to NOS, not sleep. Stay. Wired X344 brings out the wondering mind 42 in you. Rockstar, the energy drink the size of a hot tub. I mean, can you believe the size of this thing? Pretty soon we're just going to open it up and climb right in. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the endorsement contracts to come rolling in. The internet functions like a nonlinear complex system. What if this turned out to be the tipping point for public perception and political will on climate change in the US? How would it feel to be a part of history? Here's where you influence which future you'll have. You can't predict it for certain, but you can change the probabilities. Throughout its history, America has led the world in so many ways, yet on this we've been asleep. But now we wake, and there's work to do. It's time for the best in us to come out.